Welcome to Crypto for the Rest of Us, 6 days a week tip, tool, or coin analysis. Today we're going to talk about Hedera. Fast, efficient, and cheap. There's so much to get into with Hedera. Some of these cryptos I go into great detail. On this one, I'm just going to focus on those three things because there's a lot to talk about. But I thought it was important to point these things out because I think they're huge selling points and competitive points when you look at Hedera versus some of the other layer ones, and they are a layer one. I always have to say as a disclaimer, don't do what I do. I'm a big domain animal, informational purposes only. When we look at those three things, I like on this Hedera site here, it says incredibly fast, predictably low fees, finality in seconds. So let's get into it. Let's look at speed. Now, they have their own chart. So there's two ways to look at speed. There's the Hedera themselves telling us, which, you always have to take that with a grain of salt. And then, of course, you look at it with respect to some third-party services that are trying to track things like speed, transactions per second, etc. And then you compare that because sometimes it's better to get it from a third party. And I must say I own Hedera. It's one of my largest positions. I'm a big fan. So they compare it to Bitcoin and Ethereum. But regardless, they call themselves a third generation, 10,000 plus transactions per second. That's significant. Now they have a asterisk here, which I think is interesting, because it says the cryptocurrency transactions are throttled at 10,000 transactions per second. In other words, they're essentially stopping it and holding it back and will increase in the future, period. Then they say the sharding will allow unlimited transactions per second. Okay, what's sharding? Here we go. Sharding refers to database partitioning technique used to enhance the scalability of the blockchain. You divide the ledger into smaller, more manageable pieces, what they call shards, and Hedera aims to increase its capacity to handle more transactions simultaneously, thereby improving the overall network speed. Each shard operates independently, processing its own subset of transactions, which allows the network to scale efficiently. Fascinating. Okay, makes sense, right? So 10,000 transactions per second, and they may be holding back, throttling, and it could be unlimited by using sharding. Fascinating. Let's look at, they point from their website over to this one to look at the speed. And this particular Metrica has a couple different layer ones on here, but they don't have Solana, which I think is the most important one to compare it against. Full disclosure, I own Solana as well. They happen to show, they have a lot of statistics here. I don't know how valid this particular site is, but they happen to show max transactions per second at over 8,000, meaning at one point in time, it logged that speed. I'm not sure that's really the case. I like this particular site, ChainSpect. Now, if you look at ChainSpect, you read about it, it basically says, we're four dudes and we're trying to track stuff. So they don't really get into who they are, what they do, and how they get this data and whatnot. But assuming it's correct, what I do like is that they have a dashboard of all of the different networks, and you can see this is ranked by, I clicked real-time TPS, and Hedera has a real-time, you can do it by hour, day, 7-day, 30-day. Just looking at the hour, over 2,000 transactions a second. Solana's second with 500. If you go to a daytime, 1,800 versus 500. Let's look at the last 7 days, 1,400 versus 720. I guess these are averages. And then 30-day, you've got 1,700 versus 700. And then they just drop off like a cliff as you go down through the different chains. And of course, they've got the last one, which is integrity. I think that's hilarious. I'm thinking, I'll make my own. Now, this is also pretty cool because not only do they give you the real-time TPS, but something I'm not going to talk about now, but governance. If you're familiar with governance, Hedera is a council. You can also have off-chain, you can have on-chain. But I like particularly the council governance. I understand decentralization. Maybe that doesn't really fit, but regardless, we'll get into that in another one. Point here is look how fast they are. Now you can go into each individual one. You can click Hedera Solana. It'll tell you, for example, you can see the actual, let's just look at Hedera itself. It gives you their stats, real time over 2,000, max recorded 3,200, theoretical 10,000. Tells you a little bit about, but then you can most importantly compare them. So I think this is the most important comparison. It's the only one I'll do. I'll put a link to this. You can go through them all if you want. Real-time transactions per second, I think that's significant. Hedera is 4 times faster than Solana, or at least that's what they're doing. Max recorded. It shows here Solana has a faster. Hedera was at over 3,200. For some reason, this site says 8,000. So I'm not sure about how accurate these max recorded are. Max theoretical, well, I'm not sure that makes sense because Hedera says that they are throttling it and that they potentially, with sharding, have unlimited. They show block time, finality. Looks like Solana's winning in some of these, but for me, it's real-time transactions per second. It shows a couple things. It shows that people are using the network. I mean, you're not going to get a lot of speed, that many transactions per second, if people aren't using it. Okay, so people are using it, and they're using it a lot, and it's fast. I love that. Now let's get into, that was speed, efficiency and cost. So they send you over, or actually first let's look at, they show it here. They show 0.003 when it talks about energy consumption per transaction. And they send you off to one different site here where there's this research paper, but I just want to get right to this graph. On the left side, there's energy consumption. You can see it goes down over time. What is time? Time is throughput. Okay, so the faster, the more transactions, it's going down. Look at this one down here. That's Hedera. If you look at this up here at the top, you look down here, Hedera, significantly more efficient with respect to energy consumption than the other networks. I think that's huge. Obviously, energy costs money, and of course, people are worried about other things with regard to energy. Then you look at their fees. When we look at the costs, they say here it says 0.001, but elsewhere, most of the places, Hashgraph consensus is incredibly lightweight, allowing for the cost per HBAR transaction to be very small, around 0.0001. I haven't seen cheaper than that. They also have a fee schedule where you can see every single thing, transaction fees, query fees, etc., for every type of action you're going to take. And they have all of their fees. But 0.0001 is one of the cheapest. So it looks like they're the fastest at the moment. It looks like they might be the most efficient at the moment because when I've seen graphics comparing it to others, pull this one up here. Look at Hedera down here. Hedera is the greenest proof of stake network. This is watt hour per transaction. Hedera, Algorand, all the way up here. You got Cardano, Ethereum. They don't have Solana on this chart, but you can see it's incredibly efficient. So they're fast, they're efficient, they're cheap per transaction. And if we look at, of course, at this point in time, it's August 6th. And you can see here, I've gone all the way back to, TradingView did. This is 22. And recently it's down to 0.055, which is actually around here, but it dropped a little lower. And it's basically hit the prices of last October, last December, and I think it was last January as well. So you could be getting Hedera at a current price that is last year's pricing. So if you think you missed this whole run up, you didn't, because it came back down. I've been buying down here in dollar cost averaging. I think I might be around 7 or 8 cents for mine. You can see it got up to 0.15, got up to 0.18, but that was some bogus news. But even if you look at 0.05 current price and you get back to just this, March price of this year, that's 3 times your money right there. I think it has a lot farther to go. I've seen people do technical analysis and they've got price predictions which are substantially higher, easily a 10x, if not 20 from this current price. So that's it for today. I hope this was helpful. I wanted to point out those 3 things. I don't like to go into extremely long videos, but I thought it was important to bring that to your attention because the buy-in price, in my opinion, is extremely low. Can it go lower? Of course. But personally, I think if I were to put betting odds on it, I think the percentage of increase is much higher than the percentage of decrease over the next couple months before we hit that bull run. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Let's make generational wealth together.